Okay, we're also going to have Alex Tyree come up from Spike DDB.
Yes.
Very excited to be here with everyone today. I think a lot of what we've heard is how to match action to the words that, brands are saying, right? How to put the do behind what they're doing. So we're happy to be here with Juanita Slappy, head of multicultural marketing at Cadillac, Dario Calmese, artist, urbanist, director, and brand consultant, and of course, Alex Tyree here from Spike DDB. So thank you for joining us for this conversation. So we're here at the Brand Innovators Summit, of course, celebrating Pride Month. What a wonderful time to celebrate. Ahead of Juneteenth, right? And just coming out of AAPI Heritage Month. So many moments. I want to start the conversation by asking Juanita and Dario about these cultural moments, right? Our CEO at Edelman, Lisa Ross, she just wrote an op-ed for CNN yesterday and said that these are times to solve, not to sell. What do you make of these months and these moments? How do they feel to you personally, and then to you as a brand marketer?
Good morning. Is this one on? Good morning. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many new friends and old faces in the audience. You know what? From a cultural moment perspective, they definitely need to be celebrated. It shows your true inclusion and desire to connect, but you have to move beyond episodic moments and performative moments to show how you really show up in culture, how you build and drive that impact. So these cultural moments, while dynamic, they're just one small piece of what should be an ongoing narrative and relationship that we can tell you about and show you, more importantly, through our work with Dario and others. But more importantly, we know some brands don't get it right. So you have to also lean in and give examples of how to do it authentically. And I think Rob stole my statement, is that true inclusion is an everyone's job. It's not a one person, not one department. So when you adopt that behavior, we'll be a better culture.
Thank you. And Dario, as someone who's sort of influencing and impacting and directing how brands are doing this work, how do these moments feel for you?
How do these moments feel? I think it depends on the brand, right? I think, human beings are extremely intelligent. We have intelligences and perceptivities that extend beyond, just vision, things that we can articulate in words. And so we understand when something is authentic. And so, some moments are really wonderful moments of celebration, and then some, are just performative and, nothing is lost, nothing is gained, and, you wake up tomorrow. But, I love that prompt that this is a moment to solve and not to sell, because it's really just a perspective shift, because those are not opposites. It's actually when you solve, you sell. And if your intention is to solve, then the selling just naturally happens, right? I mean, most of us are just trying to solve problems every day. And if we focus in on that, then the rest is natural.
It's sort of that theme that doing good is good for business, right? So you might as well do the right thing. Now, Alex, Juanita, and Dario, you all just completed a campaign together, Undeniably Me, which builds on a campaign from last year, Audacity of Me. Can you take us behind the scenes of the project, where the idea came from, and what's the collaboration process been like?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, or good afternoon. Is it noon yet?
It's still morning.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, as creative strategy director at Spike DDB, we're really just proud of the campaign that we were able to produce with Juanita, with Dario, behind and in front of the camera. And so, when you think about just where the brand is going, where culture is going, who we are as an agency, following our fearless leader, Spike Lee, and we were just really thinking about what it means to be an icon as an American brand, what that really means to be, inextricably connected to a meaning, a feeling, in society, and Cadillac has really represented that as a standard of the world. And then you think about just what it means to be of a marginalized community, and what it takes to deal with the trauma, to deal with the challenges and the hurdles that you have to face to overcome all of those things. And so it takes an audaciousness. It takes a willingness to see something beyond what is the circumstance in front of you and to be the perfecter of that circumstance. And so when we were looking at individuals, and not just individuals, but those who embody that, as you will see, and you probably already heard from Dario, he is a free being, and he really, really does reflect the aspect of that. And so as we built that campaign, Audacity was an opportunity for us to see that and work on a campaign that highlighted 3 different individuals of the community of different backgrounds. And Dario just really was able to capture them in such a human way, right? It's not just about how we can make them look good, but how do we really convey the essence of what it means to be audacious. And so he joined us along with that journey. It wasn't just about us telling him what we wanted to do. He came and brought his own viewpoint and made it a lot better. And so that collaboration was so amazing. So when we got to this year, the beauty of being able to have amazing creative collaborators internally and externally like Dario allowed us to be like, why not highlight him and his story and show what it means to really be undeniable?
I love that. It goes beyond just sort of the performative representation that we see a lot during these cultural moments. Alex, you kind of hit on my next question for Dario. If you can answer for us, why Cadillac?
Let me see. I'll try. Yeah, this is just a weird sound. Is this sound weird or is it me? It just sounds weird.
Sounds-
Sorry, guys. Sorry. So yeah, that's like warmer and nicer. Because it's like being recorded, right? So I'm, when we talk about like a why Cadillac, I think it gets down to just like the essence of like relationships. I mean, that's really what has driven this, right? Like being out in the world, culturally connecting, organically, authentically. And I mean, I've known Alex for I don't know how long, and then
Yeah. Can I just say, we were at the Astor Gates Black Artist Retreat, and I met Dario, and the thing is with Dario is he's just such a fascinating individual, fascinating mind. But over that time, it was like this unveiling of all of the things, the aspects of who he is, the nuances of what he does, came about. But I think it goes back to kind of what we're talking about with the story of the inclusivity. And it's really a practice of empathy, really seeing someone as a human being, really understanding who they are. We didn't have conversations about like, what do you do? Or, oh, do you want to work? And I know what I do for a living. I could easily, say, hey, you want to be a new influencer for us? But it was more being able to connect on a human level, and it allows for those opportunities and those gaps in the space to be able to see where, you fit in the bigger picture. And so kudos to Dario for being who he is, but just wanted to give that story for how we met.
yeah, no, I totally remember now. We went roller skating. That's how we met. Like at this place that was roller skating, and he's a terrible skater. And I literally just like took him in my arm and we like went around the rink and he's like slipping and sliding. And like that's actually how we met. And so when you say something like, why Cadillac, it's about authentic relationships and capacity to grow, right? So coming on board as a photographer, and then building in that relationship that, Cadillac seeing a capacity within me to be more than just like hired talent, and then me seeing a capacity within them, like as a brand, like this is a relationship that can grow, and then perhaps maybe there's another opportunity, and maybe then we can talk about like, my foundation that I have, and like, how do we create a pipeline for, other Black creative designers to be, designing cars with Cadillac, right? And then Cadillac wins. And so it's this volley back and forth, I think, of just seeing each other over and over again.
What you spoke about really is about amplifying the humanity of the creator throughout the entire process, every step of the way. Juanita, can you talk a little bit about how Cadillac emphasized that throughout the process?
Absolutely, and I think we have some creative that can do it a little bit better. So let's start with Audacity of Me, and then I'll answer that.
I am the first transgender athlete to compete for a Division I men's team in college. That gave me this platform as the first, right, to be able to talk about my experience as a transgender athlete.
I've spent a lot of years working on myself, working on my skills, making sure that when I enter a room, people can see that I am confident because I love myself.
I struggle with my identity as a young person. I always say this, don't hide. The quicker you can figure out who you are, and the better you're off you'll be in the world. Stay curious, just be your authentic self.
So kudos to Dario, who captured those three dynamic people. But in summation of what I hope you took away from that is it's not monolithic. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a richness to add. So if Cadillac can be the driver of that, to showcase these creatives, to work with them beyond the lens, behind, in foundation, hand in hand, championing their efforts, because yes, we do champion big dreams and bold ambitions, and this is a manifestation of that. This is something that you will see in Dario and through our agency work that I'm extremely proud of, and it's not just for this moment. It is real, and it's 365.
Yeah. Speaking of keeping it real, marketing, when we talk about marketing, people are thinking about the external audience, the folks who are going to spend the dollars, right? The consumer, the viewer, the follower on social media. But we know that sometimes it's the internal audience, the folks who work every day at the organization, that's most important. Juanita, can you speak to that dynamic a little bit and consider how each of these audiences impact the work that you do at Cadillac?
Absolutely, it's multifaceted. I mean, if you don't have your internal constituents on board, who do you have, right? Because they're also the ones wanting to see how you show up externally, and it starts internal. So I'm proud that other campaigns such as AAPI and Black History Month and moving forward, Pride will also showcase employees because they want to see themselves and be valued. Representation matters, and that they're diverse as well. So our creative is also a reflection of our dynamic tapestry of talent we have internally, and it speaks to them and it makes them proud to be an employee, to know we're working with agencies and partners that reflect them and they want to be friends with and they buy into. So of course, ERGs, we can be, go political if you will, but it truly goes to the heart of each employee because as Rob said, though you may not have a connection to that ERG, that story, that level of empathy and connectivity can help you beyond what you could imagine in the workforce and feel proud that you work with such a dynamic organization that wants to be a reflection of the world. So we're definitely conquering that and keeping them in mind as well.
Dario, if you had to tell other brands, what they need to know about working with creatives from diverse backgrounds that they may not know or they may not be paying attention to, what would you want to tell them?
I don't know. I think maybe just, a level of active listening, look for shared humanity. I think that so many of the kind of cultural faux pas that we witness, I'm just going to assume, had the best of intentions, but we're not really deeply integrated because there was no deep integration of that story within the company, meaning if you want to work with someone of, a different background, diverse background, it really just starts from a place of love, right? And if you love them, if you find that place that you love someone, then that means that you trust them. And then if you trust them, then that means that you'll listen to them. And not only will you listen to them, but you will believe them, and then you'll take action. And that is what brands need to do. And it's in that, like, you both grow in that process. And all of the other things that you're after will be a natural and like authentic result of it. So that's what I would say.
I love that. I love that. That brings to mind, we've heard a lot in these conversations about the word ally, what it means to be an ally. I personally choose to use the word accomplice because I think people should be flipping tables alongside with you, not just cheering you on. For you, Dario, how can companies continue to be an ally?
Yeah, I think it just really kind of goes off of the what I just spoke about, and in that process, like in that trust, like sometimes just like getting out of the way, you know, and supporting, like, so for instance, I have a social impact startup called the Institute of Black Imagination, and we've had incredible support from foundations like the Mellon and other anonymous funders. And what they did, obviously you talk about the grant writing process, like, is like crazy, and then they got out of the way, and they, we check in with them, right? Because, my goal is to also collaborate with them. And, and maybe that's what it comes down to, is really looking at what does it mean to be in partnership, that we are in this together. And I was talking to Chandra yesterday. We have a favorite book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, who's a Brazilian writer and philosopher. And in it, he's talking about liberation. And he says the burden of liberation is actually on the oppressed, because only the strength built by being oppressed do you have the power to liberate everyone. And that the act of liberation is about not a transfer of power from the oppressor to the oppressed, because then the oppressed just become the new oppressor. I don't need to name names or states. However,
You can, though.
we good, we got it. But it's about a restoration of humanity, because by restoring humanity to those from which it was taken, you also restore humanity to those who lost it in the taking. And so it's the understanding that this is actually an exchange that's taking place. And by the proffering or the offering of my full self to you, then I become fuller and wholer in the process.
So I think you see why we are partnering with Dario and why he's undeniable. So 2 quick things. The flipping over the table, the accomplice, is very real. A lot of you in this room know Melissa Grady, who empowers this work. She's the CMO of Cadillac. So just want to say her name and give her verbal flowers in this space. Melissa is the helm and the glue to make sure we show up authentically. And then my partners in crime, Lemon Anderson from Spike DDB is here, Clarence is here as well, and Alex, that we need these accomplices, right? We need to hold the brand and these entities accountable, and they do, and they're a myriad of people, and they brought us Dario. And if I may insert, you must see what he just talked about in the spot, Undeniably Me. So if we could cue that up, I think that'll be a great color ad right now.
I am Dario. What do? I do me. I think being undeniable, one has no choice but to fully be themselves. Visibility is important. Everyone comes from different places, has different life experiences, and who are we to deny that?
Iconic, truly, truly iconic. Alex, you talked about the partnership with Cadillac, and how important it was that the brand had these mission, vision, and values internally as well. When you are looking for other partners or working with other partners, what are some of the things that you would like to see them have in store?
You're talking about like partners as in, I think that for us, it's hard for me to articulate that in words, more so because I think we have, and this maybe is bragging on the agency, but we have a culture, I've curated a culture where we don't see ourselves separate from what's happening in the zeitgeist. Like, we are actually in it, we are actually a part of it, we're actually collaborators of what's happening. And so it really is an energetic thing. And I think that as we look for people, it is, if I was to try to answer it more directly, because I think you guys are looking at me like you better answer that question, it is more so a value thing than it is goals, right? I think a lot of times organizations look at it of like what goal we're trying to get. We're trying to get as many awareness, we need to get this, so many people, KPIs, da-da-da-da-da-da. But it's really about how do you align from a value set? Where do you stand 10 toes down as a brand and as an agency, and what aligns with that? And so it's very easy to see with someone like Dario that he aligns, right? So I think when you are guided by that system over just simple and very short-minded goals, it allows for a better community that you can build around.
Love that. We watched those two spots, love them. The campaign, it's easy to see touches on intersectionality. Now, that's another one of those terms that folks will say and not know what it really means. To you, what does that mean? What does intersectionality mean, and how does it come to life in the campaign?
It means inclusion. It means I hope that people see themselves and they can relate and see that the brand truly cares, that the brand moves beyond being sympathetic and empathetic to everyone not looking the same, that yes, this is a cultural moment, but the beauty is this is a year-long campaign. And we can keep running it, and we do that by extending our partnership and relationship. And I think this spot before Audacity of Me, it showed you, to Alex's point, we had 3 different individuals. Totally different. That was by design because our consumers look just like that. So as long as we show up in an authentic way and we have these voices that drive that, that's the true connectivity of being inclusive in that intersectionality, that not everything looks the same. Dario, would you say on par?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be clear. You're just saying, like, what is intersectionality and, like, what it means to me. Yeah, I think it's just, like, the act of seeing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Rob, you spoke earlier about, how would, a person of African descent define themselves, right? And there's a myriad of ways, but, like, on the flip side, like, what does it mean to be white? Like, that's a reduction of who you are too. Like, you have intersections too. Like, we're all complex individuals, and why not use that as an opportunity to find out more instead of using some, like, abstract chimera and just, like, blanket it on top of people in order to make, like, moving through the world easier for yourself. Like, be curious, and you can be, I don't know, Irish American and, maybe tall, but, you grew up, in poverty in Ohio, and someone who looks exactly like you who grew up on Park Avenue, right? There's an intersectionality to that, right? And it's so that term is not one that should even be used just in reference to, I don't even want to say marginalized communities, but just communities that, exist. But it's something that all of us, we're all intersectional, like, which means we're just human. So it's just the act of seeing.
The act of seeing sounds like a next campaign. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask about the response that the campaign has received and what is happening next.
You want to say what your friends have said to you when they've seen it? You said they've been texting you?
Oh, yeah. You just show up to, like, text and your friends like, what are you doing? Like, so it's exciting to see it out in the world. And then, what's next? I don't know. We can figure it out. I mean, I think it goes back to, like, that idea of, like, capacity, right? That there's we come to the table with certain values and privileges and levels of access, and it's really a kind of cultural bartering that takes place, right? Like, what does a brand like Cadillac have to offer, right? You know, resources, R&D, you know, reach. What does a creative have to offer? You know, being tapped into like the zeitgeist, you know, a way of like interpreting the world around us that makes sense for people, right? Or to reflect back to us who we are, and like how do we then come together and build off of that. And so I think there's, you know, tons of potentiality as to what is next.
And I think the beauty of that is just being and looking at it, because when we did Audacity of Me, we didn't think we'd be here, right? So in a true relationship, it's co-authored, and we'll just stay in touch as true partners and friends will do. Immediately, we'll celebrate Dario at Native Son. That'll take place here in New York, and I'll just say, please continue to watch us and continue to support us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you all for your amazing contribution to the conversation, and we'll keep watching.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.